Bingo.
We are now
Oh my
currently
gosh.
live on YouTube. So,
Oh, what about Clubhouse?
yeah, so Clubhouse should be running. Let me just pull it up on my phone here. Do you
Well,
want to
no, the
introduce
Club
the
Deck?
stream?
Are we in Club Deck?
Yeah, do you want to introduce the stream while I'm doing that?
Yeah. So, welcome. This is our first episode of the KTMusic. I want to call it a talk show because it was a little more convoluted than that. Because we're also doing a YouTube live stream, and we are also in a new app called Clubhouse. And the reason we did Clubhouse was because it gives people an opportunity to come up to the stage, raise their hand, and they can talk with us in real time, which we both agreed we wanted that kind of engagement. Because we're starting this because we simply want to really engage with people in this field and to understand their perspectives. So why don't you introduce yourself, Paul, and just tell us who you are, some of the things you've done, and why you're here today.
Well, I'm Paul. I go by the name Number 3, and I've been doing graphics mostly in the music industry since 1991. So I'm coming up to my 30th anniversary of
Wow.
doing
Oh my gosh.
face graphics. So many people know the Aphex Twin logo, which was the second logo I ever designed.
Wow, really?
Yeah, definitely. The logo that predates that was for a club in London called Knowledge, which at the time was the only club.
Really? The only club in London.
Well, not the only club in London. There were clubs. If you liked house music or drum
Okay.
and bass,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, there was no shortage of clubs. But if you wanted to listen to Warp Records or Plus 8 or Underground Resistance or Hard House or PCP, you really went to Knowledge. It was the only place playing the kind of harder, more experimental end of electronic music.
Okay.
So yeah, that I would have done that logo. I'm guessing maybe October '91, and then the logo for Aphex Twin would have been about November '91.
So who introduced you to these clubs then? Or was it something that was a word of mouth and you just happened to be tied to that?
Before, I was brought up in a town called Harrogate in North Yorkshire, and I, from a very early age, got into electronic music. So probably 10 or 11, I was given an LP by Vangelis, which was
Oh,
called.
really? Tommy
I've
loves
listened
him
to.
too.
Well, it's albedo 0.39, so most people know Vangelis for his later work, like the Blade Runner soundtrack or Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
albedo 0.39 is just an excellent piece of work. It's a lot more abstract or experimental or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I was introduced to that, say, at 11 years old, but prior to that, I'd been into ska music.
What is it? What is that's a band or does that stand for something?
Ska, it's
It's a genre.
It's a genre.
Yeah.
ska, SKA. I mean, yeah, it's a genre. So in the late 70s in the UK, you had what was the ska revival. So ska is like a Jamaican-based music from the 1960s.
Similar to
You had the
dub.
ska revival.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you had bands like the Specials and Madness. So they were part of the ska revival. So as an 8 or 9-year-old, I got into ska, which is essentially dance music. So from a very early age, I associated the music I was into with dance. So music always had to have a beat. It always had to make you want to move. So when electronic music came into my life, it was like mostly beat orientated. So it just kind of span out from there. So when I moved to London, there was still a lot of pirate radio stations. So Kiss FM, which was the kind of main radio station for playing dance and electronic music, that would have a show from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. called The Outer Limits, and there were two DJs, two Collins, so Colin Dale and Colin Faber, and they played all the music I was into. So all the labels, all the artists that I was really hot for, these guys played it, and it was the only time you would hear this music on the radio. So it was a bit like a weekly sacrilege.
It was exclusive.
In what sense?
Well, in that there was only a certain time where you could be there.
Well, you know, at any other times on Kiss FM, they were playing other types of music, and it would be mostly kind of house and whatever was kind of popular in the mainstream clubs, like Ministry of Sound.
Okay.
So if you wanted to hear, like I say, labels like Plus 8, Warp, Heart House, you would listen to Colin Down and Colin Faber.
Right.
It was like a religious experience every week. And again, it's a generational thing, but
Oh, definitely.
those people my age, you would listen to the radio and your fingers would be hovering over the play record buttons.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh my gosh.
payroll that you liked, you would record it. So I used to have literally hundreds of C90 audio cassettes just full of recordings off the radio.
Oh my gosh.
So hey, not to hijack the conversation, but we should talk a little bit about your creative process as a graphic designer and some ways that you are able to consistently put out, solid, really nice looking graphic design work. I mean, it's been like what? How many years since the Aphex Twin logo, which was like your
Didn't
first
you say
one?
30?
30 years or so.
Yeah.
So
You know, I would say that the mindset I had as a 20-year-old isn't far removed from the mindset I have now. I think I take a great interest in the area that I work in, so I'm forever looking at design and at art. So it's not as if I exist in isolation of what is going on, but I think the motivation is that as much as I see, there is that desire to not work in any of those styles. So I mean, I'm well aware of what's hip at the moment, what's fashionable.
Hey, we just
But,
lost your audio for 1 second.
Okay, what, me or you?
I'll let you know when we can hear you again.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can
now
hear you.
we can hear you. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry.
Okay. No problems. Where were we?
So you were talking about you said you had this roughly the same mindset from the get-go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, a lot of the time, people ask you these kind of questions, and you do think about what motivates you and what inspires you. And I think if you want to put it really simply, is if you're genuinely passionate about something and your motivation is to always create and is to always push the envelope, then it's kind of a no-brainer. You right from the get-go have a kind of modus operandi. It's your thing. It's the way you think. So if someone were to ask, what should I do? It's a very difficult question to answer, because for every individual, that answer should be different, because
Right.
it's not like I can say to you, do what I do, and it will work for you,
Yeah.
because I don't know what inspires you, what excites you, what your background is, what your abilities are.
Yeah.
So for me, what I did 30 years ago and what I do now is the sum of all of these parts. It's the things that excites me. It's what my reaction
And you
to the
chased that
things.
down, and you followed
Yeah.
that.
I
So
mean, fire away.
So how do you decide what projects to take on and what not to? Because something that, as a musician and as someone who creates things myself, well, one of the hardest things I run into is, what do you say yes to and what do you say no to? Because, I mean, essentially everything you say yes to is time that you could be spending on another project.
Tommy says
So,
he's a yes.
yeah,
He
for a
has a
long
hard time
time,
saying no.
yeah, I have a hard time saying no sometimes, but I've been working on it, and I mean that's made such a big difference in my creative life. How do you must have a lot of different options for, should I do this now? Should I do this now? How do you go about deciding what ones to work on now, what ones to put more energy into?
Um, Again, it's not like I can, those yellow books, Idiot's Guide to. So, you know, I can't say that there is a specific path or a specific route anyone can take, because I think my experience and how things have gone for me isn't necessarily going to work for everyone else. I mean, I have an Instagram
Right.
page.
Sure.
That is my only avenue to present what I do to the world. And I've been meaning for 2 years to do a website, but I never have time. So
Yeah.
you kind of realize, do I need to bother with a website? Because if I'm that busy that I don't have time to do a website, then obviously
You
I don't
obviously have work.
do a website. Yeah. And the reality is that how many people go to a website these days, and how many people go
Right.
to like Instagram? Now you can be all purist about it and say that Instagram is for fools because it's like the swipe
Oh,
mentality.
sure.
But fools don't make money, and fools don't have money to spend on
Right.
commissioning you.
I
So
mean, I think the
when
reason.
people, yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, but it's like all the work that comes to me is through the Instagram. People
Right.
will contact me and say, I've seen what you do on Instagram. Can you do that? Or can you do something like that for me? And yeah, but I I would be a fool to say to someone who's say 19 or 20 starting out, oh, fuck everything, just do an Instagram page. Because what
Yeah.
is working for me might not necessarily work for somebody else.
Yeah.
You have
But
a niche. You have a niche.
yeah, I mean, in Instagram as a tool is fantastic and it works. It works for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, you must have to say no every now and then to a project. How do you go about deciding project to project? Like, no, I like, is it usually time based? Like, oh, I'm too busy to do this right now, or do you ever have to think about like
Well,
this one?
what kind of offers do you get is really what I'm interested in. Is it what are the biggest offers you get in terms of kinds of work? Are you doing graphic design for artists? Are you doing graphic design for companies? Are you doing graphic design for didn't I hear something about a watch?
Yeah, didn't you design something for a watch at one point?
Um,
I heard a watch. I know Tommy mentioned a watch.
um,
Uh
I don't think it's not secret information, but
sure.
no, but Lucas Sabat got in contact and had a contact with a luxury watch brand and asked me to develop basically how the watch worked. Unfortunately, the pandemic came along and it
Oh,
just lost momentum, and eventually the watch company, moved on. So
okay.
it's not to say that it won't happen. I mean,
Right.
it would have been a very interesting project, because to be involved in designing how a watch would work
That
in
that
a
would
not
that would like be how the dials portray time and stuff.
yeah. So rather than the standard, 12, you know, whatever it 1 to 12 kind of
Sure.
clock face, it was the whole desire from Luca was to create a completely new way of telling time,
Right.
but on the back of a luxury watch brand. So, this wouldn't have been a watch that most people would have been able to afford. It would have been crazy
It's more of a
prices.
statement than it is really trying to give the consumer a watch that they, it's less practical and it's more about the aesthetic value that you can get from that.
Well, when if you think of marketing, is every part of the market is marketed to. So whether you, I'm trying to think of America, whether you shop at Target or whether you shop
Yeah,
at, wholesale food, Whole Foods,
sure.
it's really down to what your disposable income is, and whether
Yeah.
you buy, a $100 watch or a $20,000 watch. It's really down to what you can afford. Now, if you, like in this country, you have football players, soccer, real football. So you've got football players who are getting £100,000 a week. So for them to go into a store and pay £25,000 for a watch, it's nothing. It's just loose change. But if that's your annual income, you're not going to blow it on a watch. So the thing is with marketing is there's always somebody you can sell to. As the
Yeah.
price tag gets bigger, the market gets smaller, but you just focus on that 5%, that 2%, that 1% that will pay that. So it's not, it's not clever. It's just knowing who you're selling to.
Right. I mean, so kind of to change topics a little bit, what are some things that you do in like your day-to-day life that help you work on your graphic design? Like for example, like I know that when I get outside and get exercise or make sure my workspace is organized, or I do certain things that help me create stuff that I like. Is there anything that you do that kind of helps you, or that you found that helps you to be more creative and enjoy the creative process a bit more?
Um, for a long time, I've been a real kind of image whore. I just have to look at stuff, and I'm constantly downloading things and creating folders. And so I'm constantly on things like Tumblr and Pinterest. And it's just this thing of just constantly looking at what's out there. And it's not just art and design, it's just constantly finding your surroundings and your environment stimulating. I think as long as you find uh, life exciting and stimulating, then you'll always be able to create.
Yeah.
I've never had a
I agree
problem
with
with
that.
creative block or lack of enthusiasm or lack of desire to do
I
things,
think
because yeah.
it's more tied to emotion. It's the relationship with yourself. Because when you have a good relationship with yourself and you're so much more receptive to, and you're so much more likely to be looking for what you feel that is you, like being on Tumblr, being on Pinterest, looking at all these things. Because there's just,
I mean,
no,
I
no,
mean, I'm constantly wanting to learn. So
sure.
I've a son who's 7 years old, so
Oh wow.
there's a publisher of books, educational books for children in the UK called Dorling Kindersley, and I will buy books thinking that, oh, my son will find this interesting, and you realize that it's actually aimed at 12 and 13-year-olds. But I will happily read through the books. At the moment, I'm reading a book on mythology, so it's going through Greek, Roman, Nordic religions, and you know, at 50, I can sit down with a book like that and just think, oh shit, I never knew that. And also, Thor is actually related to Loki. So all of that crap that Marvel are shitting out at a prodigious rate, you kind of realize that it's all based on ancient stories. So if you are able to maintain that kind of like wide-eyed kind of fascination with what's around you, and it doesn't matter what that is, but as long as you are genuinely passionate about stuff, then like I say, you will never have creative block, you'll never have a dull day, because everything is just there to kind of make you go, fuck, wow, shit. And you know, I think that would be it's not really, like I say, it's not really something you can tell people to do. It's not like, oh, do this, this, and this, and you will be successful. It's about a mindset. If you don't have that mindset, get a different job.
Right.
Seriously, if you're trying to be a creative person or work in creative industries and you don't have a passion for it and you don't get excited by things, change jobs. You seriously, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're wasting your time.
So kind of about that, what would you have just to say a bit about like going into music and financial situations, or following your real passion? Like for me, something I always discuss with myself internally, and I always find myself arguing with, and I'm actually currently writing a book just on this topic, is how the need for, because you don't need money, but like you do, you know, you have, as someone who has a family, it's, imagine if you said, all right guys, we're going to be really poor for a while because I'm going to go pursue this, which I really like, you know? So what would you have to say about letting finance and stuff like that influence creative outlet? Like some people are very adamant about, you know, don't let money influence what you make what you love. And some people are very, you know, make what has money in it and stuff.
It's very, again, it's a very difficult question to answer, because everybody's going to have different expectations of what they want from life. I mean, some people will happily live in a one-room bedsit and, you know, get by on a few £100 a month. But again, you know, if you're genuinely passionate about what you're doing, your circumstances outside of that become very livable. I can think back to when I first moved to London. I was at university, and you'd be literally living on a few pounds a week.
like
and you'd be living in the shitty student accommodation. But I never remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is awful. I can't stand this.
Right.
This flat is terrible. So a lot of it is down to the perception of what quantifies as a quality of life. And we live much more in an age where money is more important, where the clothes you wear, the phone you carry around with you, the car you drive plays a lot more importance in how people define themselves. I mean, as I say, I'm a generation older, but definitely the London that I remember in 89 and 90 is a million miles away from the London that's here now.
Right.
I could live in London and pay £50 a week rent, and clubs were a couple of pounds to get into. A pint of beer was whatever, £1.50. So the thing is that you didn't have to slog your guts out and make a stack of cash to live a good life. Whereas now, to live in London, I mean, I talk to people in the 20s now who are students, and it's like, well, I need to find £600 or £800 a month for rent. And if
Oh
I
my
go
God.
out, £5 for a pint. And if I go to a restaurant, it's going to cost me £30
Yeah.
for a main course and a starter. You know, it's a different time now. So the pressures on making money are a lot more significant. So you can't be kind of blasé or lackadaisical about making money, because you will basically be homeless.
Yeah.
So I do feel it's a different era, and I think that for younger people now, there's a lot more pressure on making money, which is a shame because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the value that's attached to things, why should accommodation now cost, say, a third of your income, whereas when I moved to London, it was probably a tenth of my income? Why? Why is the cost of living more expensive? And I think as well is that the social pressures that are placed on people to kind of conform
Yeah.
are so much more about money. It's not about what you think or what you say or what you do. It's about the superficiality of what you own. There's a lot more pressure now. That's my perception.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely as someone in this generation, I definitely do constantly feel the impact of like, okay, you know, living is definitely not cheap. And as far as music goes, I mean, like talking with my wife and other people, it's like, okay, how are you going to make money if you wanted to give most of your effort towards music and stuff like that? And in my book, what I'm talking about is, I think a big part of it is you just need to be okay with the whatever is going to happen with it. Like if that means, you know, making less money by making the music and pursuing the way you want to go, you just need to be okay with that. Or you need to be okay with working 2 other separate jobs to make that work. I think the biggest part of that, and not influencing your creative freedom, is to just be okay with accepting what's going to happen with what you're doing.
I mean, you know, politically, I've always believed in socialism. And I read a great thing today, which was talking about how people confuse communism with socialism. So obviously the system we have now is where a very small amount of people make a huge amount of money.
Sure.
And in communism, the idea is that, well, nobody makes any money. It's all belongs to the state. And
Right.
and I think what the person had to say about socialism was really interesting, is that it says, well, everybody can make money, but nobody goes poor. And I think in one sentence that kind of sums up my opinion about socialism. You're not saying you can't be ambitious. You're not saying you can't want more than most people. It's not stopping you being ambitious, but
Yeah.
it's just saying nobody should go poor. And
I
I think that to me is a shift that I've seen in my lifetime, is that more and more people are struggling, more and more people are having a hard time. And, you know, if you're a working person, why should you struggle? Why should you suffer?
Definitely.
Why should it be depressing and soul destroying? And yeah, so um, that to me is the biggest change that I'm aware of, is that there's been a real shift to the right, and just the destruction of humanity.
Yeah, I mean,
Everything's about money. Everything's
yeah.
about money.
I mean, I guess with socialism like that, and the way I think the biggest reason that people are opposed to it is because they can't see that, the people who are above, by going towards a socialistic society, the people who are way above would be brought down, but only in the sense of their money. But I think what they are blind to is the fact that if they don't have to worry about, maintaining incredible wealth, they are much more free, as opposed, like, they can just go and do what they truly love if they're not tied to their money. Essentially, if they're like, okay, I don't have to worry about going broke and living on the street, I can really now, instead of focusing on maintaining incredible wealth, I can actually focus on doing what I truly love, spending time with my family, friends, working on art and creative endeavors that I really enjoy. And I think, at least here in America, I know a lot of people who are very very strongly opposed to that. And the way that they make it sound is that they're losing their money. And I just don't think that they understand that by losing their money and the redistribution of that kind of stuff would actually give them more freedom.
Well, the whole point about socialized economy is that everybody chips in, but everybody benefits. And I don't know how much it's publicized in America. I know Bernie Sanders has done his bit, but it will come as a big surprise that the average American spends way more in health insurance than the tax contribution of a British person paying into the NHS.
Yeah.
So they talk about point of contact. So if you're involved in a car crash, the point of contact is when the paramedic pulls you out of the car and puts you in an ambulance and takes you to hospital. So straight away, even before you've been treated, you've got a $10,000, $20,000 bill. Now, in the UK, if you're involved in a car crash, you're taken to hospital, you're treated, you're made better, you're sent home, no bill, but it comes out of your taxes. So your tax contribution goes into that system. But the beauty of that system is that everybody contributes and everybody benefits. Now, the problem, as I see it in the States, is that if you're on a low income, you can't afford decent health insurance. So basically, you'll have cover to a certain degree.
Right.
But if you're of an even lower income, you have no insurance. I read about a case of a woman who, on leaving a train, she fell and broke her leg. And she was actually asking the people around her not to call.
I've heard about that. And that is very depressing.
So it's like, I would rather suffer than be taken to hospital because I can't afford it. Now, I don't know. I mean, people might have a different perspective of what a civilized society is about. But if everybody's working for the good of the nation, for the good of the economy, you've got a job, however low your income is, you're still paying a tax contribution.
Yeah.
So why you should be denied basic care just seems to me just brutally unfair.
Definitely.
And fair enough. If you're loaded and you want private care and you want, your teeth super straight and super white, you pay for it. But if you're involved in an accident and you just need help, it just seems to me the most basic human response is just to care for somebody, to look after them.
And it definitely shows that people care more about money. But hey, not to interrupt the conversation and stuff, but we are about halfway through the stream, and we've got someone in Clubhouse, and I was just wondering if anyone wanted to raise their hand and hop in and maybe ask some questions or give us some comments.
Just come say hi.
Yeah, come say hi.
Be
say
our friend.
Paul's here, we're here, and I see Liam here is in the Clubhouse.
Ooh, man.
If he wants to say hi. Go ahead.
Oh, is that Liam Jackson?
Yeah, Yeah, it's
He just wrote.
Liam Jackson.
There you go.
Oh, you can't see.
Oh, yeah, your screen.
Yeah,
Too
it's-
much of a ghost.
Hi, Liam.
Yeah, ask him if he wants to come on the raise his hand.
We can't scare him off now. We gotta be nice.
So we have a limited timeline. I just thought this went on forever. I thought we could just talk until.
The endless carousel.
Given half a chance, I will. I can. If there was an Olympic competition for talking shit, I would.
You'd be there
involved every time. Yeah.
You're the tea
I'd be-
drinker.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh,
30 years.
So
How many
we've just got another person here, Maxwell Bliss. So
Oh,
you know,
we have someone
anyone
on the
here
stage?
who wants to raise their hand and hop on and ask us some questions, ask Paul some questions. This may be one of the only chances in your life to talk to the great famous Paul Nicholson
Okay, buddy.
himself. Isn't that right, Paul?
Well, you know, it would be beautiful. It would
Yes.
it would justify your existence.
There you go. So if you want to get on, go ahead and raise your hand now. And if not, we're going to move on to other things. So let's see here. I'm not seeing
People
anyone
can be
yet.
so shy, can't they?
I know. We won't bite. We're not close enough.
We're not. Yeah, right.
Where are you guys? Because you're near Detroit, yeah?
Yeah, we're in Ludington, so that's about 2 hours upstate. And
Every time someone explains where they are in Michigan, they show you this.
yeah, it's the
They
hand
show you
here.
this. So we're about right here. Well, here. This is a better
Okay.
display, because here's the thumb, but we're about right in the middle there, along the coast. It's a tourist town in
Yeah,
Ludington.
definitely. And it's tourist season right now, so we are absolutely smashed with just people walking
call 'em
around with
fudgies.
fudgies. So
Fudgy.
yeah, because they come and get the fudge from the shops, and that's like the
Oh, right.
thing. So
Well, my introduction to Aphex Twin was through a girlfriend at the time who was Cornish. So I can tell you the Cornish word for the same thing as fudges is grockles.
Grockles?
Grockles. So Cornish people will talk derogatory about bloody tourists and go, oh, them bloody grockles.
yep, that's pretty much the exact same way people here feel
Yes.
about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just the
They're
word.
a blessing and a curse. They obviously bring much needed
Oh, sure.
dollar into the community, but yeah, they're dicks.
Oh yeah, I work as a server in one of the local restaurants, and I'll tell you what, they can be a pain.
Yeah,
I was brought up in a tourist town. You know, Harrogate in North Yorkshire is a spa town. So the economy is based on, there's a conference centre, old folks' homes, and tourism. So people either go there to do business, to be tourists, or to die. So yeah, that's Harrogate in three purposes.
yeah, that's about. It sounds very similar to Ludington, actually. I've talked to my wife about moving. We've been on the fence about moving over to Europe at some point. To actually, Bristol has been the place in mind that we've been thinking about. But
Hey, dude, I was in Bristol at the weekend.
yeah,
Because my holiday was a road trip around the UK, so we did Oxford and the Cotswolds.
That
Bath
sounds
and
lovely.
Bristol. Bristol's wicked, definitely.
yeah.
It's the first time I've been to Bristol, and admittedly, it was only one day, so maybe people who know Bristol better or Bristolians might go, "You're off your head. It's a shithole." But no, I mean, my experience of it was fantastic. You know. Yeah, fantastic architecture. The bits I saw, plenty of things to do, loads of history.
yeah. I mean, I know that Banksy, he's in Bristol, which is pretty awesome. I've always wanted to. I've never actually been to Bristol, but I've been a good bit around London and Europe and.
Well, you met.
Yeah, me and Paul met up over by the British Museum. That was fun.
It was good.
Yeah, that was a great
No,
time.
I mean, Bristol, definitely for my generation, you had Portishead, Massive Attack, Tricky. You know, I don't know why, but that generation of Bristolians were just killing it with music.
I mean, Bristol, I
Absolutely.
saw Bristol was voted as one of the most inspirational places to live in the world, which I
Yeah.
thought was really cool and probably one of the biggest reasons I want to live there. It just seems like an idyllic place to spend your life.
I think. I mean, again, from a British perspective, I can't say for other countries, but you know, London's a big city, and it's quite easy to just get kind of sucked into being in London. Whereas I think if you are in smaller cities where you still have access to the countryside, and it's not big enough to be kind of like, oh, I live in London. It's that you know you escape that kind of mindset, and it's a lot more about just what you can do in your city. So there's a lot more kind of
Right.
civic pride. So you find like in cities in this country, like Leeds, Manchester, Newcastle, Bristol, people are really proud to come from that city because they know it isn't the focus. It's not the big
Right.
city, London. So people put more effort into making their smaller cities better. And having come from a small town and living in London, I know that when I go to smaller cities, I'm always amazed at just how vibrant they are and how
Yeah.
vibey they are. And Londoners can be a bit kind of, bit kind of,
In your face.
you know. Whereas I think once you get out of London, people are a lot more. They're not spoiled. So I think they make a lot more of their cities than I think Londoners do.
I think so.
You know, there's actually there. It's interesting because I've heard and read a lot of studies that talk about how it's an analogy because there was a business that had a 350 person about 350 about people that they would hold in the space to work together, and they found that what would happen is around a tipping point of 150 or so people working together is when they would start to split up into subgroups, and they'd almost be in a way working against each other because it all became gossip. They would split everyone like oh group, you know, the cool guys are over having a cigarette and we can't you know be with them or something.
Right.
Whereas if you kept it smaller and more condensed, people felt a lot
Included more like
a bigger
team.
sense of community, and the group identity was much more cohesive.
So speaking of groups,
Okay.
we actually have a couple questions from Reddit for you, Paul.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah,
Right
so
away.
here,
we had,
we have a
maximum
question
diarrhea.
from a user called Maximum Diarrhea 828, and he asks, "What is your favorite color?"
What is my favorite color?
What's your favorite color?
There's a red. It's like a fluorescent red.
Like this?
I really a little bit more orangey. Hold on a minute.
Oh, you've got it there.
Do you really?
Well, you can get duct tape
Oh,
in
yeah.
Oh, I
fluorescent
see.
colors. So this, that 3M duct tape. Hold on there. That's too orange. There's a
Yeah.
fluorescent color that's slightly more red than that. So for all the English listeners, there's Dino Rod, which are drain companies that come clean your drains with power washers. Their vans are the red that I really like.
There you go.
Do I have to stick with one though?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
Because I love monochrome, black and white.
Yeah.
Just rules for me. I just the high contrast and purity of black and white. Blue as well. It's somewhere between sky blue and turquoise. So a yellow bias blue really does it for me.
I don't think it's ever just one.
No, it's hard to pick just one
When
color.
they tell you to pick just one.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's like saying to somebody, "What's your favorite food?" I mean, it's
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
that's true. I
But
mean,
no,
the day in
To Mr.
context.
Diarrhea Man, I'm not saying his question is nonsense. I'm just saying that the complexities of trying to narrow it down to one color is just
Especially as a graphic designer.
impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
I feel like my favorite sound as a musician. It's like,
Yeah, right.
What's easier is to say which colors I don't like.
oh, there you go. What colors do you not like?
Like in my work, you will never see green. I really don't like green, but I'm not. I don't mind, say, army green, like a olive drab, but
Right.
green, nah. Yellow, yellow and green, just no, not for me. Just doesn't rock my boat.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't really like yellow either, but
I feel like yellow's almost commonly disliked color. Because because it's like
green as well. You know, it's kind of sickly.
Well, nylon things that are like.
Think about those color psychology.
Colors.
Well, if you're a coward, they say you're yellow belly.
Yep.
If you're sick, you're green. You're green around the gills. So these are all colors that you associate with bad things. Red is an aggressive color, so I always associate red with kind of arseholes.
Yeah. Is that why you like it then?
I don't know. No. I don't like red. I very, very rarely use red.
Yeah.
Sometimes, though, you can use red as an accent color.
Yeah.
So if you've got a lot of black or a lot of gray, you might use red as an accent. But I am very, very rarely use red as my main color.
Right.
It's
so on to the next question here. We have someone talking about how this is related to the Aphex Twin logo. They said Richard said that on SoundCloud recently that he put the all-important circle around the Aphex Twin symbol, and they want to know about that.
Okay, well, I had a phone call with Richard a few years ago, and I was talking about the last time we met, and he said to me then that, I really don't remember much before 1995. Because he smoked too much weed. No. Yeah, it's not. I'm not being controversial, but bless Richard's cotton socks. But yeah, he's very much confused in that department. No, the circle was there from the beginning. I can categorically say that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I know that is that when I first met Richard, I was working for a skate brand called Anarchic Adjustment, and to make it all relevant, I'll backpedal a bit. When I started university in my first year, there was a guy in second year who rode a skateboard, and I rode a skateboard. And this was at a time in the UK where not many people rode skateboards. So if you were on your skateboard and somebody else was on the skateboard, you were immediate best mates. It was kind of part of the course. It was like, you're the only other person at Kingston University on a skateboard, we're best mates. That person was a guy called Charlie, who is now an artist called Pure Evil. So if people check him out, go to his Instagram, Pure Evil. He does kind of paintings with his signature is the teardrop. So if you find an artist with characters with teardrops, that's Pure Evil. So anyway, I used to skateboard with Charlie, and he was a year above me. So when he did his final year at Kingston, it was when I was in my second year, and he did his dissertation on skateboard fashion. So in doing his dissertation on skateboard fashion, he met Nick Phillips from Anarchic Adjustment. So blah, blah, blah. He did his dissertation. They became best mates. When Charlie graduated, he moved to San Francisco. So I kept in contact with Charlie. He was at Anarchic Adjustment. Charlie knew I did graphics. So he was like, hey, I'm here. I'm designing all the clothes for Anarchic Adjustment. We need graphics. can you work on some new logos for Anarchic Adjustment? So I was creating loads of logos based around the letter A for Anarchic Adjustment. When I first met Richard, this would be, I'm guessing, late September, early October 1991. I'd already done a few months' work sending stuff back and forth to California to Anarchic Adjustment. So Charlie was, keeping me busy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I met with Richard. We sat down one day. It's like, oh, you do music, I do graphics. So we were just chatting about stuff, and I showed him kind of sketchbooks. And at the time, there was a real big thing for aliens. So if you look at early 90s graphics, there's loads of grey-faced people with black almond eyes, it's all that kind of crap. And Anarchic Adjustment were like 100% on that. It's like, yeah. Oh, we're all descendants of, I know, the Roswell crash or whatever. So there was all that kind of culture. So I'd kind of gone about creating a lot of stuff that was deliberately meant to look like it was created by aliens. So I wanted to create kind of shapes and lettering that looked not of this earth. That was kind of like my inspiration. That was what I was aiming at. So when Richard saw that, there was, in essence, the early stages of what became the Aphex logo.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, because I guess you could think that by the kind of unrecognizable shapes and the kind of weird whoa, what is this kind of cryptic nature to it? I mean, he totally embraced that. You know what I mean? That was
hard.
He's so.
I always think if you have a vision with what you're doing, you can see in other people a similar mindset. So when I first heard Analog Bubble Bath, I mean, I knew that stood out from a lot of the music that was being produced at the time. So I didn't need to have that explained to me, and I didn't need to have to give it any deep thought. It was just like, fuck, that is amazing. That really is special. And I think when when I was going about designing with the stuff for Anarchic Adjustment, I was kind of playing around with shapes and forms that were deliberately not meant to look like the letter A. So in going through the sketchbooks, that was the thing that Richard gravitated to, and I just kind of developed it from there. But 100% the circle was there from the beginning. And with hindsight, it was probably a foolish move, but I drew the logo once and sent the original drawing to R&S, because in my naivety, I thought you'd send it to a record label, then they would put it back in an envelope and send it back to you.
They didn't send it back, huh?
No. So the hand-drawn Aphex Twin logo, the first version went to R&S. I photocopied it, and maybe round about 93, once I'd had my own computer for a year or two, I then scanned it and redrew it on a computer.
You should try to get that back from them.
Oh, yeah, right. Seriously, they wouldn't have kept it, because I know what will have happened. Renard would have sent that to the printers, would have told them what to do. They would have simply gotten a reproduction of it and created Selected Ambient Works 8592 using that artwork. As soon as they got what they need from it had just gone in the bin. I'll guarantee it's gone.
Yeah, I guess he wouldn't have been as at the status of craziness that he has nowadays. So.
Oh God, no! If truth be told, you had the 2015 SoundCloud drop, and then you had the 25th anniversary of Selected Ambient Works 85 and 82. So there was a little bit of interest started to generate after 2015. But from my point of view, it was really from 2017 that anybody ever said to me, "Oh, you did the Aphex Twin logo."
Yeah,
So
I
up
guess
to
he did get a lot more popular around that
yeah,
time with the
so
masses.
Why do you think that was? Is that just because his work started to become more accepted?
I mean, I saw that during. You've probably heard of Death Grips. Paul?
Death Grips rings a bell.
Death Grips.
You should check them out. They're really cool. They're
They're crazy.
definitely
They're intense.
they're nothing like Aphex Twin, but definitely the experience I had when the first time I heard Aphex Twin as a kid, I was like, whoa, this is unlike stuff I'd heard before. And then but when I heard Death Grips, definitely experienced that same thing again. It's a mix of like rap, industrial like noise, and I don't know, like electronic music, but I saw them get popular around the same, like around 2017 and stuff, and then along with Aphex Twin. I mean, it was like the scene of people that were like cool vinyl collectors, like hipsters. I definitely saw the trend of, you know, them and Aphex Twin around the same time, and I just think that's really interesting.
I mean, I know when I think about the music that inspires me, I mean, it's quite a broad range of music and a
Yeah.
broad range of styles. There's say musicians that I didn't like at the start. I mean, Amon Tobin, the stuff he was doing in the 90s, I think is awful. I hate all that kind of scatter drum and bass. And it's the same with Square Pusher. His early work I can't stand. And even further down the line, you kind of get into, say, albums that they'd produced, say 2015 or whatever. You think, oh well, maybe I missed something. Maybe I didn't
Right.
get it. So you go back and it's like, no, it's awful. You know, early Square Pusher does nothing for me. But the stuff he did last year, the Terminal
Oh,
whatever.
Terminal Slam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the one that he did where the video was on the Detroit Metro.
Oh
Just
yeah.
phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Just really, really great. And but I keep going back to Square Pusher's early stuff, thinking that
There's got to be something.
I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because
but then it's that thing though. It's just what I think.
Exactly.
It's not. I'm. You know, I'm just another person. I've just got another opinion, another viewpoint.
I find that Square Pusher is very dividing. Like my friend Kyle, he just cannot stand Square Pusher, especially mostly his older stuff. His new stuff, kind of like you, it's pretty good, but his old stuff, he's just like nope. But like for me, I really enjoy it, and I find that when I show people older Square
Give
Pusher,
me an example of an old Square Pusher.
Tundra 7, what's it, A Journey to Freedom, and that kind of stuff, you know.
Okay. What about Wind Scale?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, older Square Pusher is anything earlier than like Damage and Furies or whatever. Everything past that, I think a bit more modern, but I find that his stuff is extremely dividing. The people I talk to either really enjoy it, or they're like, no, I don't want to listen to this anymore.
You know, and I think that's a good characteristic in an artist. That they're developing their themselves over time, and that B, they really have something that someone's either gonna really just be averse to that, or they're gonna be, they're really gonna dig that, and it's not a bad thing.
No. So I mean, kind of about that, like as an artist, do you like to not reinvent yourself, but like as music, like someone like Square Pusher, definitely if you compare his artistic pathway versus Aphex Twin definitely had a very he figured out what sound he wanted and definitely stuck within that realm, whereas you listen to some of Square Pusher stuff and it's drastically different. Some of them is like almost free jazz, and some of them are really intense drum and bass, and then the new stuff is a different thing as well. And as an artist, you, Paul, do you find yourself looking to come up with new visual aesthetics, or do you think it's a good idea to, you know, this is what I like to represent, this is what number 3 looks like, and do you try to make that image as what's it called, cohesive as possible?
There's there's different aspects to when you work, because there are occasions where you're given complete free rein, and you just sit down and think what will work, and you create it. But you know, a lot of the time people come to me and they've seen previous work, so they'll have an idea what they want. So you straight away have a certain boundary that you're working within. And one of the things I like to do with people is that I ask them to create a mood board, because I find that if people give me images or examples of the things that they like, in a way, because everyone is unique in what they like, this allows me to find a new direction with every project. Because what I'm saying to people is, well, what things excite you? And it means that I don't fall into the trap of being, oh, it's another number 3 design.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
to give you an example, I really love the Designers Republic. But one of the things I would say about the Designers Republic is, if you go to the Designers Republic, you have no control over what's going to happen.
That's true.
You are going to get a Designers Republic design, and it's going to have a very, very strong Designers Republic stamp. So I want to approach it from a different point of view, in that I want as much as possible the personality or the things that excite the client to be the starting point. The bit that is what I add will be how I coalesce those ideas, and it obviously will have the essence of what I do.
So about that. Well, you recently did some work for Skrillex. Would you mind talking a bit about what you did as far as like?
Well, what things did he show you? Like, let's say
some of the workflow there.
Yeah. So he comes to you. He tells you, like, what were some things that he was like, this is what.
How'd that happen?
What?
How did it all happen?
Yeah. That's interesting.
There's a girl that works for or works with Skrillex. I'm you know, if she's listening, that I do apologize. I don't actually know what her position is within the organization, but you've got Ausler, you've got Skrillex, but they're a very you know, smart group of people. That what they're doing is very, very good. The music, the way the organization is run, it's kind of, you know, second to none. So Marilyn got in contact with me towards the end of last year, and it was really just a chat. It's like, hey, you know, me and Skrillex, we've been looking at what you do, really like what you do, and it was just a chat.
That must feel good.
And no, but it was just a very pleasant chat, you know, and it was just left, oh, you know, at some point in the future we may contact you, we may not. It wasn't like, oh, we've got a project for you. Right. But I guess maybe March, they got in contact with me, and they played me the track for Supersonic, which is, you know, just a fantastic track. I mean, when they played it to me, just like you are now, I'm looking at you on the screen, they played the track and I was getting goosebumps. It was just like such a great track. So it was really, oh, we just need a logo. And as far as briefs go, there was none.
Huh.
They gave me a few examples of the things I'd done that they like. They didn't show me other work or other artists or
What
other
were
things.
You feel like they trusted you then?
Pretty much.
what were
And
some of the? Oh, sorry.
just what you would expect, like
Right.
Aphex,
Oh
Knowledge,
yeah.
Oniric. So because it was a proper project. It was a good one, a big one. So I pulled out the stops and I submitted. It was basically a first submission with about 15 logo designs. They came back with a little bit of feedback. I did a second submission, and that's the logo that you see being used on Supersonic,
Hmm.
and is the one that I posted on the Instagram. From various chats with Sunny, I get the impression that the other logos that I did will be used.
That's pretty cool.
So it's quite uh, the beauty of it is it's quite a loose
Right.
arrangement.
Do you-
I've just submitted a ton of work, and at some point it will end up being used maybe as merchandise or T-shirt prints, what have you.
Do you like those kind of loose commissions more, where you have, like, oh yeah, here, do something that's just Paul Nicholson would do,
Well,
and then we'll use it here or there.
when you're given these kind of situations, it's your chance to really showboat, because
Yeah.
it's the gloves are off. Just do what you want, have fun, really push the boat out. I mean, some of the things that are submitted, Sonny'd be like, I love it. I can't read it, but I love it. And that's the sort of thing that may end up as, say, a T-shirt print or something, because
Right.
it's not your kind of core brand. It's not like the focus, say, on a record sleeve, but it's something that would work as a T-shirt print, because the fans know the name well enough to get it.
Right.
So what kind of tools are you using? I mean, I'm interested because I'm not into graphic design at all, and I'm interested to know, because I know you initially didn't you told me that your graduating year from your
I'm just trying. I'm moving around, not because
okay, you're good.
but it's still down to that.
Yeah. That special pen there.
No, but this is a Rotring Ticky. It's one of those pencils with a little lead that pops out.
Oh, okay.
And I know not this one, but I could tell Aphex fans that this is the pen and sell it.
They would buy that. You'd make a lot of money.
No, I could say this is the pencil that I drew the Aphex Twin logo on and put it on eBay and get $10,000. But
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
I know that this is the exact same pen that I would have done Aphex Twin logo with, the Knowledge Twin logo, Ghost in the Shell, everyone, and even there's even the Skrillex logos. All of those things start in a sketchbook. I mean, it's probably very unprofessional, but if you give me a moment.
No, you're good.
What?
It's pretty fun.
So this is a sketchbook from 1993.
Oh, nice.
So,
Lovely.
here you go.
Bingo.
Narcic adjustment. Yeah. So you see the whole kind of hippie trippy Buddha alien,
do see that
kind of crap. So yeah,
show us some cool stuff you've done. Show yourself off.
Here we go. So that's the test department. So
wow, that's beautiful.
The word test department, but in a kind of Arabic style.
Right.
Because they were doing a lot of samples of kind of Arabic drumming.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's that looks amazing. You
So there
definitely
you go.
I do
so
like that.
what was your background? Oh yeah, there it is.
This was never used. But one of the things that I suggested to Richard at the time was that the logo with every release should kind of mutate.
That'd be cool.
So I mean, it's terrible from a marketing point of view because you'd never have
Yeah.
one logo. But the idea is that, well, Selected Ambient Works would be the first version, the logo. Then the next time the logo's released, it'd be slightly mutated, and then the next time mutated again. So the idea was that, say, over 20 or 30 releases, you would have 20 or 30 different versions of the logo.
That's pretty
And
cool.
if you had them all in a line, you would see the evolution.
That would be really amazing. That'd be cool to see.
So the idea is that if you had Selected Ambient Works 85, 92, but then bought something from 2015, the idea is that there'd be no recognizable link between the two logos. But like I say, it would be terrible from a marketing point of view because you would never have that solid brand. Imagine if Coca-Cola every year changed the branding of drink. I mean,
or most name brands like Kellogg's.
That would be funny.
So
Be a marketing.
it's a smart ass idea, but fucking stupid.
Yeah, artistically amazing, but marketingly, yeah.
I mean, it definitely would have fit with his image of trying to be elusive, but might have been too elusive.
So, I mean, going back to where it all started, I mean, I still do like just sitting down with a piece of paper, a pencil, an eraser, and just kind of working on shapes.
So, hey, we actually have someone raising their hand. I think they want to ask us a question.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Okay, here, I'll bring them in. Hey.
Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey,
Thanks for doing
what's
this.
up, man?
Hey, Paul. I'd like to hear more definitely about your creative process. My question is, what excites you now? And I guess the secondary question, a little bit harder, I guess, is what's one thing you believe that no one else does?
Are you able to hear him, Paul?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Here.
Oh, no.
So what he has to ask was a little bit more elaborating on your creative process. Probably you mean more like technically, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
sure.
I feel like I might have interrupted the flow a little
Nope,
bit.
you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you're good, man.
So Paul. So maybe elaborate a little bit more on your creative process.
What was the other thing?
Technically.
And then he was also he also asked what is one thing that you think no one else is doing in terms of
What's one thing that you believe it could be about anything or maybe it is like creatively that no one else does.
Okay.
So he said, what was something that you did creatively that no one else does?
Yeah, what's something that's very much you that no one else?
What kind of embodies you?
I mean, that could be a tool. That could be a way. Like, I'm sure a lot of graphic designers do.
Well, if you're talking about tools, anyone with a couple of dollars will have basically everything I've got. I mean, go to Target and buy a sketchbook and get a pencil. I mean, I know when I look around at what a lot of people are doing, and there's people doing amazing things with 3D software. I mean, in that respect, I'm like a caveman because I've not gotten my head around the more technical aspect of design. But I think everything just goes on in my head, to be honest.
I think it goes to show that Yeah. So how do you develop your ideas? So let's say they told you to make the logo for Skrillex, and that's what you had to do. So you started. I mean, you must have started. Do you work with are there different techniques of thinking about the design as you're going about it, like using different shapes, or do you end up? I mean, just walk me through that, because I mean, I'm always trying to make analogies back to music, and one thing that I found was, especially when you told me that, as far as 3D and these other techniques go, if the idea generation and the pen to paper works and is good, just like not all complex music has to be using these crazy techniques to sound good. You know, take country, for example. It's not using a lot of techniques. It's something that's very much itself, and it's very authentic. So what are some techniques that you use that you feel is very authentic to you?
Earlier on, I said that I'm forever looking at design. I'm looking at typography and all sorts of things. I just like this I'm a big sponge, just soaking it all in. So part of that process is in knowing what's out there, I try to avoid everything that I'm aware of. So part of the creative process is, if I see something that I think looks vaguely like something I've seen before, or if it's like, oh, that's a bit on trend, I'll immediately drop it.
That's smart. Jump ship.
Okay, so by the way, Maxwell Bliss, he can hear you now. So if you do, you can engage with him here if you wanted to talk to him again, and maybe we're not asking the question that you wanted, but if you turn your mic back on, he should be able to hear you now. So
cool. I see like a lot of geometry in your work. Is there like a special? Because I'm not a graphic designer. Is that a fundamental part to your work, like a initial foundation or anything?
It's you take the Skrillex logo that is out there. One of the things that Sonny had asked is that I reinvent the well-known Skrillex logo, and the Skrillex logo is just like standard width lines at kind of either vertical or 45 degrees. So it's a very, very kind of rudimentary logo. So I looked at that and I thought, well, how could I move it up a notch? So I just looked at the balance and the arrangement of the letters, and it's a bit like the way that the eye moves. There's a balance, there's a kind of flow that runs through design. So I was looking for a way, rather than everything being quite rigid on those 45 or 90 degree lines, it was like the Skrillex logo that I did, you've got these two lines that run through it that are a lot more shallower angle. And by doing that, I was able to kind of link the letters together more. So rather than it being quite blocky with the letters kind of fitting together quite loosely, this thing locks together more, and the letters are a lot more tighter. And one of the things that Sonny was quite keen to say to me was that a lot of the time he would just use the ill. So I wanted to make the ILL a kind of focal point. So rather than starting with the S and drawing across, I actually started with the ILL, drew this quite shallow X with the central point being on the ILL, and let the letters kind of grow out from there. So with typography, I would like to say that the way that I work is closer to, say, how a sculpture would start with a block of marble, and they know where the figure is going to be, but it's only once you start chipping away the marble that the shape starts to form itself. So I don't necessarily have 100% in my head how a logo will look. It's only once you start looking at the geometry and the structure that you start to build the letters around what you feel is a good flow. And for me, the important part with typography, with a logo type, is that the letters just all sit together really well, locked together. So another thing to the way I work is that it's opposite to how I believe most logo designers work. Most logo designers will create the symbol, the logo, and then add the type later. So if you look at a lot of logo type and logo designs, so many logos are a beautiful symbol, but then they'll just drop Helvetica or Futura underneath, because the logo type is kind of secondary to the logo. Whereas I think it's the other way around. As somebody who loves typography, I start with the word first, and the logo is simply a representation in a single letter or in a shape of the logo type. So for me, typography is the most important part, the logo type, the word.
So to me, just how I understood that is you kept a lot of, it's almost like you had, you start with a lot of the general conceptions, the things that you wanted to portray in the logo, and then you would plant the seed. In this case, it was the ILL. You placed that along with everything else, and then you began to, like you said, it just sort of grew itself as you chiseled away at it, while sort of keeping everything that you wanted in check. It was it was like it was almost like you're gardening, is how I thought about it.
There's also there's a part of the way that I work where I start with a certain element of chaos. So if you imagine a rectangle in which you fit the letters, I will just have a kind of idea of a flow, a movement. So it'll be certain angles that I want to see running through that rectangle. Mm-hmm. So whether it be, say, 20 degrees or 25 degrees, I'll just draw a series of lines at those angles and then almost make the letters around this loose,
that's really smart
set of lines. And I think that with every word, I mean, Skrillex, you've got an Skrilllex, blah, blah, blah. Aphex Twin, Aphex. So every word is a unique combination of shapes based on what one letter is to the next. And with the use of the Latin alphabet, you've even got the option of using uppercase and lowercase and a combination of the two. So you can make quite interesting interlocking segments based on what letters you've been given in a job. I've just been contacted by somebody whose name starts with X and T.
Whoa.
So it's early doors, but I'm really hoping that this goes to goes forward, because as a kind of typography nerd, this is like, wow. I've now got an opportunity to design a logo where I've got an X and a T.
That's pretty cool.
So it's a first for me. But it's I don't know how to put it across to say non-typographers, but I've always loved lettering and the shape of letters.
There must be something biological, because I've tried my hand at making a font, and I have never been more frustrated artistically ever. I tried making one for me and Kate for this show, KTMusic. I tried making a Sound Psychologist one, and I got nowhere. I was just like, this is pure hell, and I just couldn't. And then when I saw the one you did for Sound Psychologist, I was so impressed that you were just able to just like whip that up, and it just looks so nice. I couldn't imagine, like, I just couldn't have done that.
When I was at university, somebody I knew who dabbled with musics. But they had, I think it was a 101, 303, and something else for sale. So I bought them and dabbled with it, and it was just embarrassing. I'm so glad that I never put it onto audio cassette, because it was just terrible. And it's just that thing. After a few days trying to play with it, it just wasn't for me. It was just stupid of me to think that I could have a stab at it.
Some people are definitely born with predispositions towards whatever. Maybe not born, but when certain things come into their life. But for you, when that came into your life, when you got the access to those instruments, maybe, you were clearly predisposed to something else. That was just definitely not the right time. Something that I've definitely experienced as I've gotten older. When I was younger, stuff like film photography, that was just not part of me. But then I was reintroduced to it about a year ago, and now I'm absolutely obsessed with shooting 35 millimeter and stuff. And I think something that's really interesting about people is how, the right thing at the right time or the wrong thing at the wrong time, is huge. Maybe if you had, maybe if as a kid you had been forced to do piano lessons for 5 years or 3 years, like I had, when you had messed around with those, you would have been like, oh, hey, my fingers are kind of a bit more used to it. So I think that there's something really interesting about just the not randomness, but how all these different random events stack up. And, like for you, when you had those, it was just like, no, this doesn't connect, versus you and a pencil and paper, like that for you is a lot more comfortable.
Well, when I was a kid, I was into BMX and skateboarding, and I did all of those things. And you get to a certain level, and then nature kicks you in the bollocks and decides that you get old and your body just stops doing what you were so passionate about. I wouldn't say stop, but it's just that thing. The difference between, say, 18 and 28 is a big thing, as if you're into those sports.
Yeah.
I managed to, I carried on BMXing till I was 33.
Impressive.
But you just get to a point where falling isn't pleasant.
No.
Yeah, your recovery time takes longer, your reaction times get slower. So the sort of things that you could snap just don't kind of work.
Cost.
Yeah.
So, I'm firmly of the opinion that our lifespan is about 3 to 4 centuries too short of what it should be. I think that the nature of how long things take to learn, we should definitely, as a species, live longer.
Yeah.
So that would be my argument against religions, because if this is the best God can come up with, then he's.
It'd be really cool to live longer, because I feel like people who are quote unquote late to the party or start, like, think about someone like Carl Jung, who really started to develop a lot of his well-known works when he was 30, 40, just midlife, and he died around 79. But you have to wonder how much more, or even the great artists like John Coltrane or Charlie Parker, they died around 40. If they were able to extend their life.
But then I guess the other side of that thing is, though, like, if things were different, things would be different.
Everything would be different.
I just try to picture. I think, the way I think about it, I'm not really worried about, the end for me. I'm just going to work regardless. I'll probably be working on music.
Oh,
until my fingers don't really work, and then I'll, just
wait till you get to 50, and the end is a lot closer.
Yeah, I've had
the clock is ticking.
Oh God!
It is indeed.
Oh God!
That doesn't really bother me, and
no.
I think
it's just funny.
Just the impression. I've been Catholic my whole life, and I've never really felt this feeling of like don't. I mean, I'm not worried about dying, but I've never got the impression that it's bad to try to live longer. I mean, I watch videos about like just having more time in life and things you can do.
Wellness.
Yeah, wellness, living
Mindfulness.
longer, and how to be more healthy. And I guess it can be. I mean, I know a lot of different people that are different religions and different sub religions, and some of them definitely have some really weird views on like trying to live a longer life. I mean, some people are.
Well, I think the further you get into specifics,
Yeah.
like the further you really delve into this is how it's done.
Yeah.
This is how you think about things, the farther away you are from any truth, because I think a lot of truths are universal and can be applied to most any situation.
Well, I said that I'm reading this book about mythology.
What's the name of the book? We'll put it in the description.
Oh, it's just Dorling Kindersley. It's just a book on mythology.
I'll put it in
and it looks at all the major religions. And the thing is that whether you believe in Shiva or Thor or Zeus or God or Yahweh, I mean, all of the religions are created by humans. They're a human's way of making sense of the world and the big questions, because everybody asks the same question. 7 billion humans at some point in their life go, where are we from? Where are we going?
What's this all about?
What is the fucking point?
Yeah.
And if you were 4,000 years ago in a desert in the Middle East, you were given one view of it.
Yeah.
And here we are now talking bollocks, and this is another view of it.
I think it's really amazing just looking at, picture religions where you were saying in the middle of the desert back then and stuff, and then think about now. I mean, the amount of metaphysical thought that people can interact with, like religion can develop so intensely now, and thought can go so much farther. Like me and you are having a conversation, Paul, and you are across the world. Like back then, that was not even comprehensible.
What amazes me is that you think about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They're all effectively have the same root. And Judaism didn't spring from nowhere. There were religions that predate Judaism that are the root of the Judaic faith. It wasn't the first monotheistic religion. So it wasn't as if the Jewish tribes 4,000 years ago just came up with this out of nowhere.
Right.
So you have this thing that runs through all of human history, which is about wanting to answer the big questions. And I just find it amazing now. You see images from a yeshiva where you've got the guys and they've got the caps on and they're all nodding their heads looking at the book. And if you're an Orthodox Jew, your life is about studying the book.
Right.
And it just seems amazing to me that you've got 4,000 years of people studying the book, whether you're a rabbi, whether you're a priest, whether you're an imam. You've got hundreds of thousands of people every year whose sole purpose is to try and find understanding from the book.
Definitely.
And it just seems to me a fundamental flaw of religion is if the answer isn't clear, then the way it's being told is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that makes a lot of sense.
I think there's definitely
it's flawed.
Yeah.
If people cannot find meaning from religion, then there's no meaning in religion. Move on.
I think that this like there's a kind of a new wave to find religion these days. Like I don't know if you guys know who Jordan Peterson is. Like
we're aware. We are aware.
Yeah, like he's become very popular and he talks about he's introduced so many people to Christianity and like for some strange reason people are drawn to that. I was one of them. And it is very interesting that religion has been around this long. There's a guy that I recently found out called René Girard. He was a French literary critic. He passed maybe about 10, 15 years ago. but he has a theory called mimetic theory, and it's that people are mimetic and you copy each other, and when you when you copy someone, you oftentimes enter into a rivalry, and uh, it's the escalation of rivalries that lead to all kinds of chaos, and it's fundamentally human. And he came up with that theory, and then later discovered or theorized that it was the revelation, Christ's sacrifice of he was the scapegoat, which is uh, when these rivalries, say like in a society, become so volatile, there is a scapegoat that is decided, and people sacrifice the scapegoat to make society calm, and it's always temporary. And this is like
Because everyone's
what
pointing fingers.
right, and there's always someone like there's always a problem, and someone always needs to be blamed for the problem. And it was like this was archaic, primitive society for so long until Christ, that religion came around, and Christ was the ultimate scapegoat, and um, he didn't participate in humans' violence of sacrifice. He showed the sacrificial nature by coming back from the dead, and people were able to realize over time, I guess, because I mean he just came up with this theory that we sacrifice an innocent victim, and because Christ didn't deserve any of that, he was just kind of pointing out our individual faults and trying to be a good model, and we didn't like that. But ever since then, we tried to protect victims as much as possible, and we haven't been able to sacrifice as much. So, like Girard says, that we developed science, we stopped sacrificing witches, and then we created science, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
science.
another kind of example of that would have been like with the Nazis and the Jews, which they essentially it wouldn't have been a person, but a group. They essentially said, this is a big cause of the
Right.
pain and suffering in Germany. But I guess to pull everything back on track here.
We aren't theologians.
No, I don't want to overspeak because I'm not.
Yeah, there's going to be some. There's going to be
extremely intelligent about these things. So
I don't want to get into
don't
stuff
take
I'm
the
not
stuff I
educated
say.
about.
Yeah, I mostly concern myself with music.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I'm a musician too, and
don't-
I found it very, I heard you say Jung, and now you talked about
I love
mythology.
thinking.
I was like, I can't believe that we're going down this path,
yeah, I mean,
It's all related.
because
Yeah.
I'm very interested in it too.
It's all related, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, we are actually about 45 minutes past our time length, but that was flexible. So let's try to maybe wrap things up here in the next few minutes and have some final
In the
questions.
next few hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Yep,
great.
grab a glass of wine there, boss. How about it?
Well,
My phone's about to die, and I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store because I just saw this as a notification that you guys were talking.
Oh,
I was
sick.
I gotta
Yeah,
go in here.
So make
yeah.
sure to add all of us online.
Yeah, hit us up.
Paul's ad is number 3. Is it just at number and then letter number 3, Paul?
Yeah,
Because
I found you on Instagram.
Okay, and then
yeah.
I'm on there as a sound psychologist, and Kaden.
I'm on there. It's Kenda KENDA .SPEROW Sparrow.
And this is KTMusic official. That's that's what the podcast is. And
Well, I reckon the next podcast should be about theological debate.
I would
great.
love to get Jordan Peterson on here, and if that's
that'd be great.
that would be really cool. I mean,
But I want to play the role of the agent provocateur because as a devout atheist, I feel like I could have a lot of fun stirring the pot.
I mean,
yeah.
if we get Jordan Peterson on or some theologians, you can be another co-host.
Yeah, you can do whatever the heck you
Paul
want, bro.
Nicholson, Tommy, and
But
Kaden.
My
That's right.
take on Jordan Peterson is he's the guy that never got invited to parties, who hates the cool kids, and he's just created a whole life about trying to control and repress all of the fun and free-spirited aspects of humanity, because he just wants us all to be well-behaved, living our life by 12-point plan or whatever his stupid book's called. No, it's a complete wanker. Complete wanker.
We're gonna have to make sure he's
Live
on
your
here.
life. Live your
he's not
life.
any
Throw
good?
away the rules. Life is too short to live by rules.
We will definitely have to try to get him on here and then have you guys talk. That would be quite the episode.
The problem is with people like Jordan Peterson is they're smart asses, and they
have to win. They have to win.
They've heard every counter argument, and they will just blind you with references to the Bible, references
Circular
to
logic.
philosophers, and it's like, yeah, you can name drop loads of people. You know, you've read enough books to be able to quote all of those things, but what are you actually doing? You're probably living in some shithole in Canada, and you probably don't make anybody happy. You don't make anybody laugh. Everybody thinks you're a cunt. So it's kind of like, you know what, mate?
I think he's helped so many people, though. Like, people like in really bad places of their life have turned to him and like found like a lot of help.
You have to look at his
for their
intention.
lives.
First and foremost.
I think Paul means not the work that he's done. I think Paul mostly means his intent, purely his intentional point of view. Like, what's his game? What's he going for?
This is the nature of humans. If you need help, you will find help in whatever you need at that point in time.
Yeah.
If help is a friend putting their arm around you and going, come on, mate, we can get through this. If help means reading a 4,000-year-old book written by Middle East people, then you will read that book.
Yeah.
If help means going to a club, popping an E and dancing the night away, help isn't exclusive to one or two people. You know, we find joy and we find solace and we find redemption in anywhere. It comes from anywhere. And you just have to open your eyes and open your mind to just finding that path that works for you. So I can say what I like, and I'm confident to say that, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
99% of the people hearing me can say I'm wrong.
It's all just.
I found a path that works for me, and I just find it kind of sad that a lot of people are constantly looking to other people for answers.
Yeah.
And believe me, those people don't have the answers. They will.
Once you realize
what works for them, what works for Jordan Peterson doesn't work for me. So I know that his books, I know that his theories are completely wrong, because I would not want to live my life by his rules. But it's not to say that it wouldn't work for someone else. But don't believe that he has the answers, because he hasn't.
I think once you're able to look at someone
objectively,
once you're able to look at someone objectively, look at what works for them, and then say, where am I in that? Where do I see myself?
Someone like Jordan Peterson really is talking about what I think really their angle is like. Here's what's worked for me.
How to make money.
Yeah, I mean, like something. Yeah, it's. Yeah.
But religion has been around for so long.
my
like,
God.
I mean, that has to be.
So syphilis.
Yeah.
What'd he say?
But that syphilis doesn't have any meaning attached to it.
Well, neither does religion.
That's a biological thing. Religion is written down, and there's stories and narrative behind it. And
look, the McDonald's menu is written down. It doesn't mean anything. Loads of things are written down. I mean, why does everyone put all their focus onto one book? There's so many books.
They're similar in messaging, and like comparatively speaking, you could say like this is religious, and you like defining religion. You can define religion, like, you know.
I tell you what, I know nobody can define religion, because no Christian, no Arab, not Arab, no Muslim, no Jew will tell you what their religion's about. So
Well, you could say it's like
you
Phil,
hear,
go ahead.
the best way to describe what I'm saying here, I watched a theological show on British television where you had all the three main religions in a room, and there were Christians arguing amongst themselves, there were Jews arguing amongst themselves, there were Muslims arguing amongst themselves. They couldn't even agree within their own religion what their religion was about. So as an atheist, I'm listening to the three main religions with followers that probably constitute 2/3 of the Earth's population. And I'm like, come on, what are you trying to say?
Well, I mean,
Those are the fine details, though. It's like a philanthropic end, though. It's like what all of them together could be an aim towards philanthropy, generally speaking, the betterment of humankind and whatever that exactly
well, they're
is.
tools. They're tools.
Hundreds of thousands of people every year dedicate their lives to study those three books.
And they tell us what to do. And where do you think?
But they still can't agree. They still can't agree on anything.
I think that's the details. The fine details is all like we're still arguing about how to treat each other like skin color and genders and stuff. And it's very elastic. Like it can go really far and then come back.
I mean, the way I see all this stuff, to me, the way I get through my life is like, if something, whether it's a book, whether it's a person, whether it's art, whether it's a drug, if that helps you treat other people with more kindness and make the world a better place, then I don't really care. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if at the end of the day, if it helps you,
treat the world better and like make the world more kind, like where does that come from? Where does that idea come from?
I think
like,
that's
it's
just,
emotions.
I think that's just that is the question. You know what I mean? That's what people try to figure out.
I bet there's people listening in thinking...
It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay.
I was going to say, I bet there's people listening in thinking, weren't we supposed to be talking about...
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I think we'll have to guide this.
Yeah, guide this closer to an end here. And,
start
to wrap.
Don't get me wrong. I could talk about all manner of things.
Yeah,
but just in case.
We'll have to have you on here again. Maybe you could even help us co-host. I mean, you have a lot to say, and I think, if you might have a blast talking to some of our other guests and just getting.
We're definitely gonna have more artists.
We're gonna
definitely talk more about art.
I mean, Maxwell, we're gonna have it. This isn't just a music podcast. We're gonna have some guests on here that are like bishops and stuff. One of the people I'd like to have on here is Bishop Barron from California, a very intense Catholic person.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, I would love that. And if we have him, I want you to talk to him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would like to watch that. But
there's like very tough discussions to have and stuff, but they're fun in their own right. As long as it's not it goes overboard or anything. But yeah, that's so maybe just to make it less woo, I guess, and I'll just leave it at this and try to make it short, is there's people that have studied under Girard who don't agree with him in that it was the Christian revelation that changed our anthropology and made us try to be better people and not sacrifice each other as much and see the innocence in people and everything. They think that it was like a founding, like when we were just developed consciousness, like this is a miracle that we live here, the Big Bang. It's just like one big biological miracle, and then somehow we developed consciousness. And then when we were around like our first kill or something like that, it was like the sounds, the grunts, the symbols that we made that allowed us to get along together. And it's just been this identification of symbols and language that has helped us prosper over the years. And that's like a very like agnostic, atheistic, biological view of it all.
Right.
And so it's like and I'm very sympathetic to that idea, but I lean towards like that we need religion just to, or some kind of symbol just to be able to survive among one
Hey,
another and like see the
if we need a
independence of each
symbol
other.
to survive, I will design it.
Yeah, there you go.
I will
I want
design
you
that
to do
symbol.
that, please, please.
Yeah.
Well,
there you
so
go.
great.
well, thank you very much for coming on here, Max. We're gonna start wrapping this up, so I'm gonna send you back
Yeah,
into the
thanks for being
audience
here,
here.
man.
Thanks so much for raising your hand. It's been.
No,
You
I
know,
hope
we,
you've
you
had
know,
a nice
before
time.
we barely had engagement with.
I mean,
really-
out of the three main religions, I think Islam have got the best logo. I think the
There you go.
crescent and star is so beautiful. You
Wow.
know, like when you see the ambulances in Palestine, and rather than having the Red Cross, they've got the Red Crescent.
Yeah.
That's a great logo.
Indeed.
I just thought we should bring it back to design. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna send you back here to the audience, Max. Thanks for talking to us.
Cheers, man. Best wishes, everyone.
See
Yeah,
you guys.
thanks, man.
All right, let me see. We gotta go. All right, well, so yeah, we'll start wrapping things up here. So that was fun. This is the kind of experience that we wanted to have with this Clubhouse app. Was just bringing people that we've never talked to, just kind of to just interact, and I think that was a new experience. You know,
real.
that's something that I've never had
real.
in a podcast where someone else can just kind of pop in and be like, "Hey."
I mean, as someone that's done a few podcasts, I mean, definitely when I did the first ones, you kind of think it's like an interview, or it's like you're trying to tell people about yourself, tell a story. And
Right.
What's I think is great about a podcast, as opposed to say traditional TV type interviews, is that there is more opportunities just to let it flow. So I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, like, say, for example, there's an English comedian, Richard Herring, who does podcasts where he talks to other comedians about the art of comedy, about the industry, about the whole process of making people laugh. And it's fascinating because you realize that there's this whole background story to being a comedian, and it's a brutal industry. I mean, definitely check out podcasts where comedians talk about what they do. It's a hard line of work. You know, from you know, psychologically, the effect it has on you, trying to make people laugh and having to do 200 or 300 dates a year just to try and hone your craft, make your stand-up show work. But podcasts are fun. They're a lot more fluid. Things can happen. But maybe try and rein it in next time, so it's just about design.
Yeah, it can be tough to manage people sometimes, especially when there's other guests. But something I've been meaning to ask you about. I saw on YouTube that you did a video with Resident Advisor where they talked about. I keep forgetting that. What was that fun? Like, I keep forgetting that you did a video with them. How did that come out?
I don't know if it's come across on this podcast, but I can definitely talk. And when Resident Advisor came round, there was 3 hours of footage, and I know there was some real gems in there about. You know, they were specifically asking about my time with Aphex because it was around about that time of the 25th anniversary of Selected Ambient Works. So, so when it goes on Resident Advisor and it's 2.5 minutes, I just felt really shortchanged because it's like, we spoke about so much stuff. And I even rang up Resident Advisor and spoke to the guy that arranged it all. And I was like, well, fair enough. You edited it down for 2.5 minutes for wherever it was released, but why not release a longer version? He's like, that would be a really good idea.
So as this person who watched it, I could feel that there was stuff missing. Like, when I watched that, when I was because
so much stuff.
When I figured out about you, I mean, I'm not like a crazy Aphex Twin fan. I grew up listening to his music, so I kind of the position that in my mind that he filled was like a childhood artist that my dad listened to, and it was like, he makes good music, and I was curious about where his logo came from, and I found that video, and I remember watching it, I was like, why is there not more? Like, this guy, like, this is really cool, and he's got a lot to say clearly. And that it was, I mean, the 2 minutes, and I remember watching it, and I was like, this is extremely short. So, I mean, I don't know. I agree. It should have definitely been longer.
I think, you know, some people don't like to talk. Some people do. I'm definitely the latter. So, as the whole debate a few moments ago will show, I mean, I'll happily talk about most things.
Right.
And I will usually have an opinion. It's my opinion. You know, I'm not saying that everyone should live by anyone's rules at all. But yeah, I love a good discussion. It puts fire in your soul. You know, it gets you excited. I mean, definitely, I love a good conversation. People need to do it more.
Well, hey, so we've got
break out of your echo chambers and start to have discussions and arguments with people. Don't just listen to people who say the same things as you.
Yeah. Well, so it's almost been 2 hours here. I mean, I could go on too, but let's wrap this up here. You know, maybe some final statements, and then we'll have to have you back on for another episode. I mean, we've got so much to talk about.
As this gets more developed and we know how to really.
Yeah, we've still. I mean, my camera's not even working right now.
Keep things under control. Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on, Paul, and everyone here. If you aren't following Paul on social media, look up Number 3 or Paul Nicholson, and he's not hard to find. He's done some amazing graphic design, and by far,
I love his work.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. And he also designed my logo, and hopefully he will be. I mean, I'd like to have you do the art for this channel at some point, but definitely follow him and check some of his stuff out. And yeah, we also have a Patreon, so if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free.
We're starting up have you heard of Discord, Paul? Have you heard?
Oh yeah, Discord.
Discord. We started a Discord channel, and we're really trying to get a community going.
Yeah, you should, if you have Discord or ever feel like dropping in and just, you know, having a conversation with like-minded people, you know, feel free to. We can send you an invite, and the link to it will be in the description of the stream. So, feel free to check that out, Paul, and anyone else who is interested. And we'll probably wrap this up here. So thank you for everyone who stopped by and gave us some time and watched what we had to say and gave some attention to Paul and listened to him talk about his work.
I just want to say one thing is that I want people to be aware that I have daylight bulbs in my studio.
Yes.
So I'm not actually this pale.
Actually, you look. Wait, no. Yeah, no, I was looking at a weird screen. Yeah, you definitely have a white look.
When I look at the video, you guys, it's all orange.
There's
and
such
red,
a contrast.
You look like humans. And then I look at my shot.
It's just part of that otherworldly aesthetic you cultivate.
That's just London.
It's just a Londoner look.
What have they done to you?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
It's just red buses and rain here. That's all you need. Red buses and rain.
Red buses and rain. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Paul. We'll have to say goodbye to everyone here. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next Thursday at the same time. So thanks for tuning into the KTMusic